There's a moment in every concert, a single heartbeat between the final note and the explosion, when the last sound hangs in the air and 70,000 people hold their breath before erupting. That suspended second when silence becomes deafening. Michael Jackson lived for that moment. October 1st, 1992. Bucharest National Stadium, Romania. He just hit the final note of Man in the Mirror, the closing song, the anthem, his voice soaring on the last change that filled every corner of the stadium. Now came the breath, the pause, the moment before chaos. Michael always used these seconds the same way. Eyes closed, head back, arms spread wide, absorbing the silence before it shattered into applause. But tonight, something made him open his eyes. His gaze swept the VIP section, the politicians, the dignitaries, the people who got seats because of power, not passion. Row 6, seat 14, a woman, mid-30s, dark hair, simple dark blue dress, sitting beside an 11-year-old girl who was screaming and waving. The woman wasn't screaming, wasn't waving, just staring at Michael with an expression of profound, complicated pain. 70,000 people were about to explode into applause. But in the second before the roar, Michael Jackson's eyes found a face in the VIP section, and the breath he'd been holding became something else entirely, because he knew that face. Catherine Estefan, his vocal coach, 1981 to 1982, the woman who taught him to feel instead of perform, the woman who taught him to breathe into grief instead of mimicking it, the woman he'd asked to marry him, the woman who'd said no and vanished. The second ended. 70,000 people erupted, but Michael didn't move, didn't bow, didn't wave, just stared at row 6. From the band perspective, something's wrong. Michael should be taking his bows. Instead, he's frozen, staring at the VIP section. From Catherine's perspective, this can't be happening. She'd come because her niece Anka had begged. Please, Aunt Catherine, everyone at school is going. Catherine had thought, 70,000 people. I can hide. He'll never see me. But during the final note, the song she'd helped him learn before with that specific rawness, she'd made a mistake. She let herself really look at him. And in the second before applause, Michael had opened his eyes and looked directly at her. Anka was tugging her sleeve. Aunt Catherine, he's looking at you. Wave. But Catherine couldn't move. 11 years earlier, March 1981, Los Angeles. Michael Jackson, 22 years old, was recording the follow-up to Off the Wall, the album that would become Thriller. He was technically perfect, could hit every note, but something was missing. Quincy Jones kept saying, "It's good, but you're performing the emotion. I need you to feel it." Michael didn't know how. Enter Catherine Estefan, 24 years old, vocal coach, specialized in emotional access for technically perfect singers who couldn't connect to feelings. First session, March 15, 1981. Sing something, Catherine said. Anything. Michael sang She's Out of My Life. Technically flawless, emotionally empty. You're performing grief, Catherine said. You're showing me what grief looks like, but you're not feeling it. How do you know? Because your breath is controlled. Grief makes you breathe differently. Most coaches would have pushed harder. Catherine did the opposite. Tell me about someone you actually lost. Michael talked for an hour about losing his childhood, about feeling like if he stopped performing, he'd stop existing. Catherine listened, then said, "You haven't lost someone. You've lost yourself, and you're mourning him." No one had ever said that before. For 18 months, March 1981 to September 1982, Catherine worked with Michael twice a week. She taught him to breathe into his diaphragm when overwhelmed. She taught him to locate emotions in his body, anger in his chest, grief in his throat. She taught him that accessing emotion didn't mean losing control. The Thriller sessions transformed because of her. Billie Jean became dangerous because Catherine taught Michael to access his fear of being trapped. Beat It became powerful because she taught him to channel childhood terror. Human Nature became tender because she showed him how to want something without performing wanting. But something else happened. Michael fell in love with her. Catherine was the first person who asked, "How do you feel?" and waited for a true answer. September 1982. Thriller was finished. The sessions were over. But Michael kept calling, asking for additional sessions, making excuses. Catherine knew what was happening. "Michael, the album is done. You don't need me." "I do." "You need to figure out what you actually want." December 1982. Michael invited Catherine to dinner. A date. Real dinner. "I know what I want," Michael said. "I want you, not as my vocal coach, as my partner." Catherine had been expecting this, dreading this. "I love you," Michael continued. "I know it's complicated, but I love you. I do feel something," Catherine admitted. "But Michael, I can't be what you need." "What do you think I need?" "You need someone to hold all the emotions you can't hold yourself. And if I become that, I won't be your partner. I'll be your emotional caretaker. Then marry me. We'll figure it out together." Catherine looked at this 24-year-old offering everything he thought love was and saw what he couldn't. "Michael, marrying you wouldn't fix what's broken. You need to learn to hold your own emotions, not outsource them to me." "I'm not." "Yes, you are. Every session, you learn to access feelings for performance. But you never let yourself feel them outside my studio. You use me as a container. That's not fair. It's completely fair. I'm saying no, Michael. Not because I don't love you, but because I love you enough to refuse to enable you. Enable me to what? To keep avoiding the real work. Learning to be a whole person, not just a performer. If you're enjoying this story, please subscribe to support the channel. Michael had left devastated. December 15th, 1982. Catherine disappeared. Changed her number. Left Los Angeles. Vanished. She thought, a clean break is kinder. Michael spent 10 years believing she rejected him because he was broken. What Michael never knew, Catherine never recovered either. December 1982-1992. Catherine's 10 years. She moved to New York. Tried to rebuild. But every student reminded her of Michael. Thriller exploded. Michael became the biggest star in history. Catherine watched from a distance. Saw him performing with techniques she'd taught him. She told herself, I did the right thing, but she didn't believe it. Catherine stopped coaching. Took a job as a translator. Boring work that didn't require emotional access. 1985 to 1989, she drifted. Different cities. Trying to outrun what might have been. Catherine's sister Mirela died suddenly. Aneurysm. Left behind 7-year-old daughter Anka in Bucharest. Catherine made a choice. Stay in Bucharest. Raise Anka. Bucharest in 1989 was emerging from communist isolation. Gray. Struggling. No connection to Michael Jackson's world. Perfect. Catherine got a job as a translator. Raise Anka. Learned Romanian. Build a quiet life. She told herself, this is penance. I said no. Now I live with it. October 1992. Anka, now 11, saw posters. Michael Jackson. Dangerous World Tour. Bucharest. Aunt Catherine. Can we go? Please. Catherine's instinct. Absolutely not. But Anka had lost her mother. Had so little joy. Catherine thought, 70,000 people. He'll never see me. It was not fine. Now, October 1st, 1992, Catherine sat in row 6, seat 14. And Michael Jackson had just recognized her. The applause was deafening. Michael walked to the front of the stage, pointed to row 6, the woman in the dark blue dress. Row 6, please stay. I need to see you. 70,000 people turned to look. Anka was losing her mind. He's talking to you. Catherine was frozen. Security moved toward them. Mr. Jackson has requested to see you. I can't. Please, come with us. Can my niece come? Of course. 11:17 p.m. Michael's dressing room. 25 minutes after the final note, Catherine Estefan stood holding Anka's hand, facing Michael Jackson for the first time in 10 years. Catherine, Michael whispered. Hi, Michael. 10 years and 2 words. Michael's eyes went to Anka. This is... My niece, Anka, my sister's daughter. I've been raising her since 1989. Hi, Anka, Michael said, crouching. Anka responded in Romanian, too fast, too excited. Catherine translated. She says you're her favorite singer. An assistant took Anka to a green room. The moment they were alone, Michael stood. You're in Bucharest. You live here. For 3 years. Yes. Why did you disappear? Catherine met his eyes. Because staying would have been cruel to both of us. Cruel how? You asked me to marry you. I said no. What was I supposed to do? Keep working with you? That would have destroyed us both. So you just vanished. Changed your number. Left L.A. No explanation. I thought a clean break was kinder. Kinder for who? I spent 10 years thinking you rejected me because I was broken. You were enough. Then why did you say no? Because marrying you would have meant becoming your emotional caretaker instead of your partner. I wasn't asking you to be my caretaker. Yes, you were. You didn't love me. You loved what I represented. Safety. Someone who could hold all the feelings you weren't allowed to have. That's not. It is. Every session, you'd learn to feel something for a song. Then you'd shut it off. You never let yourself actually process emotions. You just used them for performance. And you wanted me to be the container for everything else. Michael sat heavily. So you're saying I can't love anyone. I'm saying you hadn't learned to love yourself yet. And until you did, you couldn't really love me. You could need me, but you couldn't love me as an equal. Did you ever think about what saying no did to me? Catherine's face, pain, every single day. But I couldn't contact you, because if I did, you'd try to convince me, and I'd want to be convinced. What real work? Learning to hold your own emotions. Learning you're allowed to feel things outside of performance. Catherine sat beside him. Do you want to know why I'm really in Bucharest? Tell me. Because it's as far from your world as I could get. Every city in America reminded me of you, and I couldn't heal. So you ran away? Yes, because staying was too painful. I've been in love with you for 11 years. Since you first walked into my studio. Since you learned to breathe into grief. Since you became who you were meant to be. Then why? Because loving you and being with you are two different things. I love you enough to want you to be whole. And you couldn't be whole while using me as an emotional crutch. You said no because you loved me. Yes. And you left because you loved me. Yes. Are you still in love with me? Catherine looked at him. Yes. God help me, yes. Then why can't we try again? It's been 10 years. I'm different. Are you? Can you hold your own emotions now? Or are you still looking for someone to hold them for you? Silence. Michael couldn't answer. Catherine stood. I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Okay. If we tried again, would you be choosing me because you love me, or because I make you feel less alone? Michael opened his mouth, closed it. I don't know, he finally admitted. Thank you for being honest. I'm not saying no forever. I'm saying not yet. Because until you can answer that question with certainty, we'll just repeat the same pattern. Then tell me what to do. I can't tell you. That's the whole point. You have to figure out how to be a whole person without me. How long do I have? Catherine smiled sadly. This isn't a test. This is your life. You have to decide. Do you want to keep being Michael Jackson, who occasionally accesses emotion for songs? Or do you want to be Michael, who happens to perform? I'm in Bucharest. I'm raising Anka. I have a quiet life. And I'm not leaving it unless you can honestly tell me you've learned to be alone without being lonely. Can I see you again? While I figure this out. No, because if we keep seeing each other, you'll never do the work. Michael, tears streaming. So you're leaving? Again. I'm not leaving. I'm staying exactly where I am. But you need to go back to your life and figure out who you are when I'm not there. October 1992 to June 1993. Michael tried. He started therapy. Real therapy. He learned to sit with discomfort instead of performing through it. June 1993. Michael called Catherine. I think I'm ready. Ready for what? To answer your question, I don't know yet, but I'm learning the difference. And I wanted you to know I'm trying. I'm proud of you. 1993 to 1995. Michael continued the work, not linear. He backslid, but he didn't call Catherine to be the container. He sat with it. December 1995, 3 years after Bucharest. Michael showed up in Bucharest unannounced, knocked on Catherine's door. I can answer the question now. Which question? Why I'm here. I'm choosing you because I love you, not because I need you, but because you're brilliant and you see me. And I want to build a life with you. Catherine studied his face. You mean that? Yes. Prove it. 1996 to 1997, Michael proved it. He split time between L.A. and Bucharest. He learned Romanian. He got to know Anka. He let Catherine keep her independence. June 1997, Michael proposed again. This time it was different. Not save me, but build with me. Catherine said yes. They married quietly. The press found out later. People were confused. Michael's response: the woman who taught me to feel, and then taught me to be whole without her, and then chose me anyway. October 1st, 1992, 11:53 p.m., Bucharest. Catherine left Michael's dressing room holding Anka's hand. Anka, in Romanian, what happened? I'm okay, sweet one. Does he love you? Catherine paused. He thinks he does, but he has to figure some things out first. Will you see him again? Maybe. Someday. If he does the work. Years later, Michael kept a photo on his nightstand. Catherine in her L.A. studio, 1981. Young. Smiling. At the piano. Below it, in his handwriting. You said no because you loved me. You left because you loved me. You waited because you loved me. And when I finally learned to love myself, you chose me anyway. Thank you for being brave enough to say no until I was ready for yes. Michael Jackson saw her just before the applause. Who it was shocked everyone. Not because she was famous, but because she was the woman who'd said no 10 years ago. The woman who'd disappeared to save him from himself. The woman who'd lived in exile, waiting for him to become whole. And in the second before 70,000 people roared, Michael finally understood. Sometimes the people who love you most are the ones who refuse to enable you, who say no when you need to hear yes, who leave when you need them to stay. Not because they don't love you, but because they love you enough to want you to save yourself. Catherine did. And 10 years later, Michael finally understood why. If you like this story, please subscribe to support this channel.